You know, one of the trends that we've seen that's been growing, and it must be working because it seems to be continually growing, is the manufacturers of mobile phones, smartphones, coming out with these mid-range phones. You know, phones that don't necessarily have all the bells and whistles built into them. And I gotta say, I kind of like the trend because seeing some of these simple phones come to the market, they're a little thinner, they're a little smaller, easier to get into your pocket, and they're still quite full of features. Yes. And good price point. And so that's what we're looking at today. This is a Samsung Galaxy A5, and this is their mid-range phone.
Kind of like, you know, and I think I know why, is that people are upgrading their phones every year or every 2 years.
Sure.
So if you're buying a mid-range phone, you can make those upgrades almost annually rather than having to wait for 2 years to then buy the next premium phone. So,
but I also think that because of the tablet market and the fact that people have like 11-inch screens and 9-inch screens, there is this kind of question of, should you have a phone, again, that like fits in your pocket? That's like, and you know, again, not to cut you off, Andy, but when you look at this phone, I've just showed you the front of it, but I'm just going to turn it to the side. This is a 5-inch screen, so it's not overly sized. It fits nicely in my hand. It kind of goes back to that Steve Jobs, like you should always be able to touch you know, every part of the screen. And as I turn it around, as you can see, the materials are nice, but I just like the feel. I like the weight of it as well.
Yeah, it's got a great overall design. Like you said, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but there is a lot of great features. On the back, you have a 13-megapixel camera, which is great, and you know, Samsung makes great cameras for smartphones. Sure. And also a 5-megapixel on the front with this ultra-wide selfie mode. So if you're a narcissist and you like to take a lot of pictures of yourself,
really big head, like someone Andy and I both know,
named Mike Agabo, you can actually get your head into the frame with this super wide-angle lens on the front. And you know, for most people, I think this will do 90% of the stuff that you would want and expect from a premium phone, but you're paying almost half the price when we're looking at around the $450, $500 range unlocked.
And because it is an Android phone, it's got some flexibility to it. So beyond the specs that are built into it, you do have the ability to expand it by putting in additional memory. You can see that there's a card slot there, and of course, a removable SIM as well.
Yeah, under the hood, you got about a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core processor with about 2 gigabytes of RAM, which for the most people is great because you're going to have a lot of apps and you want to make sure that you can navigate through the apps without any kind of lag. So mid-range phone, this is pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, just speaking to the speed there, Andy, the one thing about the not the top-of-line processor or not a ton of RAM in it, it is going to slow down the overall performance, but I think for the general use of a phone, if you're not playing video games on it, it's got a 720p screen, but it also kind of gives, it's less, all that stuff is less drain on the battery as well. Not the RAM necessarily, but certainly the processor and the screen.
Well, speaking of the battery, it's a 2300 milliamp hour battery internally, and for most people, that's going to get you through the day for the average smartphone user in you.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, just talking about that battery, it's the, you know, the little bit lower processor and the little bit less resolution screen that's going to not drain as much of the battery to allow that smaller milliamp battery than we've seen in the premium phones get you through that day. And
it's a super bright screen, so if you do want to save on your battery, just turn the screen brightness down a little bit because it is really, really bright. It has that super AMOLED screen that Samsung is widely known for. But if you turn that down, you're going to save a lot on your battery life.
That's from the tips and tricks section of our website. Anyway, you might want to take a look at this phone if you are looking for mid-range. This is the Samsung Galaxy A5.